Uh, Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're going to start with a brief video of some Action Accelerator participants from across the country, and then we'll go into a brief presentation on the opportunity with the Ohio Whole Child Action Accelerator.
The Action Accelerator program provided strategic funding for us at a crucial time when we were hitting the ground running with really important work that we know needed to happen. And it was great to have a funder step in and provide the resources needed to get the project from start to finish.
And it's so powerful when you hear back from community members what's important to them in this moment. And particularly because we've never been through a moment like COVID and systemic racism all at the same time.
It was a great opportunity to share stories, hear different campaigns and different ideas to be able to take back home to our organizations in Manchester.
The counties that we worked with, which again, small rural districts in Southwest Georgia, an area that was hit very early and very hard by COVID-19. Being able to sort of show up and help them and support them, that mattered.
It was very powerful that those you invested in were many communities that are marginalized, right? And most of the time we don't see investments in our community at all. And so to invest in actual communities and organizations that actually were working with those young people or adults or those communities, kudos to you.
It was an amazing and once in a lifetime opportunity to really insert the lives, the struggles of Black and Brown families in Montgomery County into the educational conversations that happened during COVID-19. For many, many people in the public school, what happened at the school, at their homes, did not matter. As a result of this opportunity, we were able to share with the powers that be how much what happened inside their homes mattered for young people, for their parents, and the school system was able to react and do something about that.
So again, welcome. You've just heard from recent Seek Common Ground Action Accelerator participants, and you can see more in-depth testimonials on our website. I'm Michael Gilligan. I'm the Chief Common Ground Officer for Seek Common Ground. I'll be your guide today on this opportunity to support the whole child development of young people in select communities across Ohio, namely Akron, Cleveland, East Cleveland, and Southeast Ohio. We estimate today's talk to be approximately 30 minutes, including your questions. But we'll answer each of your questions if we're able to. We'll get back to you if we're unable to answer your question in today's chat. And we can do that to the top of the hour. So to address that, please post your questions in the Q&A box. And you can also reach out to me afterwards. My contact information will be on the final slide of the presentation. Also, we'll post this presentation on our website and update our FAQ with your questions. So this is what we'll cover today. We'll talk about the Ohio Whole Child Action Accelerator, also about our model, and I suspect of most importance to those of you joining us, how to express interest in this project. So, our goal is that in the communities in which we have resources to support, Our intention is to support community-facing organizations. So those that work directly in the community, to develop projects that reflect the aspirations of the Ohio Each Child Our Future plan, which you can access through our expression of interest information, or you can go directly to the state's website around that. And also to address the principles of a whole child-centered approach to education. Again, there's more information on that. However, to simplify, essentially the parameters are broad. What improves the life and learning opportunities for your community's young people? As you consider whether this is the right opportunity for you, we think that there are some framing questions that you can ask yourself, ask your team, ask members of your community. Essentially, to work through what we call a design process. Pardon me. So, first of all, the essential empathetic question. What is important to you and to the young people of your community in terms of their support for their educational opportunities? As you consider what is that top of mind issue, consider what are the things that need to be addressed to improve that situation, to ameliorate potentially negative conditions, to amplify potentially beneficial ones. That's what we call the identification process. And then finally, it culminates in what we think of as a discrete or a unique, an actual project idea. What is a concrete action that you can undertake to address this issue? We call that ideation. So let me just delve in a little bit deeper around ideation. The intent of our model, of the kind of supportive work that we can provide for you, is to focus on developing a project idea, a really discrete action that you can take that can improve the life opportunities for young people in your community. And the way that we process that, or the way that we provide this opportunity, is through what we call an action accelerator. This model is born on the experience that we've had in running multiple project activities across the country over a number of years. So let me now turn to what the Action Accelerator is. And if you choose to participate in the Action Accelerator, you'll see how it evolves. First off, we think of what we call the overstory. We think that there are really good ideas, that they abound across communities on how to address a particular issue. And so what we hope to do is to provide the opportunity for you to take a good idea and to mold it into action, to develop it into a project, and we can provide resources to support that work. I will go into more detail around the specific opportunity with the Whole Child Action Accelerator. However, this is just the conceptual framework. So where we think the magic happens is that you have a good project idea and others have a project idea that addresses the same issues and perhaps has similar groundings, similar activities, but maybe it has different groundings and different activities. But if we bring you together through a learning community, you'll be able to share your ideas and you'll be able to access other people's ideas. And that will improve your work and it'll improve their work. So we think that it's a beneficial cycle of interaction. And so your project idea coupled with others' project ideas forms this learning community. And the result of this interaction is information, is knowledge. And we call that the innovation hub. Sometimes we have to access external information in order to support your work. But we have found through our experience that the vast majority of the beneficial information evolves from your experience in managing projects through the Action Accelerator. And these three elements together, the projects, the learning community, and the innovation hub, we think leads to really beneficial effects across a range of issues. We call that the understory. So that these actions all meld together, merge together, and have reverberating effects across your community, across others' communities, and spur new ideas and new thinking. So that's why we are on the call today. That is our intention, is to form an action accelerator around whole child-centered approach to education in the communities I mentioned. And now to get to the actual specifics of this opportunity. First off, we do want to note that if you look at the materials, and you may already have in-depth knowledge around the state's plan, around school districts' plans to address the elements of the state's plan around the whole child approach to education. As I mentioned, each child, our future. The project activity that you propose, that project idea that you have should fall within the realm of the issue areas that are covered through this whole child approach to education. If you have some questions around that, if you are uncertain, I have two responses. One is that please reach out to me. Please reach out to the Seek Common Ground team. And also, as I will mention slightly later in the presentation today, we endeavor for this process, for the expression of interest process, not to be onerous, that it is accommodating to people. So if you are in doubt, I would say you should express interest. So that's what I'll say about the whole child approach to education at this point. The second point is that the resources that we have are directed to these particular geographic areas. And that although you may be located outside of these areas, the project idea that you specify should be specific to these areas. In particular, I would say the school districts of Akron, the school district of Cleveland, East Cleveland. Southeast Ohio, we are looking at a range of counties across Southeast Ohio. I'll just note we have some flexibility around that. Again, if you have specific issues, questions around whether you would be eligible because of work in Southeast Ohio, please reach out to us. And as I mentioned before, or please express interest. And then just the next element that I'll delve into to some small degree of detail is around project support. We actually plan to engage in this work over the next 18 months. However, for today's purposes, this is a 6-month project. The actual project activity will take 4 months, from June through September. Our intention is to identify the supported projects by May, so that we can touch base with those folks and work through a project plan over the course of the month of May, or within the month of May, so that you'll be ready to launch your project in June. And as I had mentioned earlier, in terms of the Action Accelerator process, we want this to be specific to a project. So it is a time-bound project. The conclusion of the project activity, if you will, does need to be September 30th. So it is truly an Action Accelerator. It is to extend from June and conclude by the end of September. And then, as I mentioned, within that 6 months, that leaves the month of October. And again, for us, the purpose of having that last month is for us to be able to reflect with you on your project and consider the lessons learned from the work that you engaged in. We then endeavor to begin a new project cycle that would commence in November, and again, be for 6 months. And that would conclude with an ending project cycle in October of 2022. If you express interest and we identify your project for support, our hope is that you'll continue on this journey for the next 18 months. However, we know that things get in the way, that conditions change, so that the second and third project cycle might not fit into your plans. However, our intention is that it would. So, some specifics around how we identify your eligibility. We have some strictures on the kind of financial support that we can provide. So this is limited to organizations that have IRS identified 501c3 status. However, you may not be affiliated with a 501c3 organization. If you can identify what we call a fiscal agent, a 501c3 organization that would support the work, that would make you eligible. I'm sure that there will be questions around the 501c3 status, and we'll try to get to the specifics of individual cases as well. However, if you have 501c3 status, that makes you eligible, or you can access another organization's 501c3 status. It does lead to the issue of, and this is drilling down a little bit more deeply, there are some nonprofit organizations that would be ineligible. And those are 501c4 organizations, or organizations that engage in political activity. We are unable to support political activity. And that includes work on elections or work supporting legislation. The second detailed issue is that sponsoring organization, the 501c3 organization, we need to have a letter of support from the leadership of that organization. And how you define the leadership of that organization can be pretty broad. If it is the executive director or president of the organization, if it is an officer, someone who has fiscal authority at the organization, that is also right. If it is the board chair of the organization, that is also appropriate as well for our letter of support. We do need to know that not only is it a 501c3 organization, a nonprofit organization, but that organization supports the effort. I spoke briefly earlier about having multiple short-term projects. So as you consider whether to express interest, do keep in mind that we would like to extend this work through October of 2022, even though this specific opportunity is for the next 6 months. Do consider whether you would have the ability to participate going forward. And then finally, what I'd like to note is the time commitment beyond the actual project itself in participating in the learning community. So this would be the interaction that you would have with other projects. And through the work that we've done over the course of a number of years, we've calculated that that comes to about 5 hours a month. There's some gray room, some wiggle room around that. But for the most part, if you can conceptualize the idea of 5 hours of the assigned people's time for each of the 4 months of the project, that would be a good time allocation. So what do we mean by reliable representative? Ideally, the lead of the project, the person who is primarily responsible for the project within the coalition, within the organization, would be one of the reliable representatives. And that is important for this concept because not only is the idea of the learning community for you to gain benefit from sharing, from receiving information, it's also important that you be able to share information on your challenges, on your successes, on your concerns, on information that you need. So we really think that one of the 2 people who should be available to participate in learning community activities should be the project leader. And then another person essentially is backup. Sometimes the sessions for the learning community, none of which will exceed 90 minutes, except for the opening convening, which we think will be about 3 hours, but no more than that. That scheduling doesn't always work out. So we want to make sure that there's a little bit of redundancy so that there's always coverage from your organization for learning community activities. And this is the process. As you'll see in the expression of interest, we have 5 questions that we would like you to answer. And each of those should be no more than 250 words. If you provide them in the Google form in a written response, or in a 1.5 minute video. And again, on the expression of interest form, you'll see that there's a process to submit videos. We will pretty much accept any format. So you can also mix your responses in terms of you may choose to write your response to the first question and submit a video response to the second question. Or you may consider doing them all written or all video. We think these are the essential questions in terms of identifying the intention of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Again, this is on the expression of interest form. And if you have any questions regarding these, again, you can reach out to us, reach out to me, and I can help to work through them with you. We are an unusual funder. We do not provide a grant. We do not give grants. We contract with our project partners, with the learning community members. And the distinction is that if we decide to work together, we will have a contract that, and the elements of that contract, the deliverables, if you will, are for you to provide us with information. There will be three components to the contract, three deliverables to the contract, rather, sorry. The first will be a project plan. And as I mentioned, over the course of the month of May and with a hopeful start of June 1st, we will co-develop with you your project plan. So that'll be the first deliverable. At the midpoint of the project, we'll ask you to submit a progress report. That'll be the second deliverable. And then the third deliverable will be a final report, will be what lessons you learned from the project, what your successes were, what your challenges, what you think is shared learning for others across the space. Those are the elements of the contract. The actual work which you conduct is your own. We make no claim to the ideas that you have, to the activities that you conduct. Those belong to you. What we are looking for is knowledge. So we have a fiscal sponsor. It is the New Venture Fund. And in addition to this contract language, there will be some additional information essential on how to secure payment. And you'll see now with the W-9 information, which is essentially to provide a tax identification number, and the electronic fund transfer information, our fiscal sponsor is unable to cut physical checks. They process all payments through EFTs, through electronic fund transfers. Those are requirements from our fiscal sponsor, the New Venture Fund. So we will also, with the amount of funding that we provide, we'll have a payment plan. Upon the execution of a contract, we'll release the first payment, the submission of the project plan, and then at the midpoint. So we're not going to hold any funding until the end of the project. The majority of the funding will come in the first and second payment, and there will be a small amount secured in the third payment. So finally, those 5 questions, we'd ask you to submit that information to us in a couple weeks, a little bit more than a couple weeks from now, April 16th, Friday by 5 o'clock Eastern time. Over the next couple weeks, we will go through that information that you send to us, and we'll look for the eligibility criteria. We'll make sure that you meet the eligibility requirements with your project. And we'll reach out to you if we have additional questions. And so I think I should note and emphasize that it is likely we will follow up with you over the course of the weeks of April 19th and 26th. And then, so be prepared for that. We will not take undue amounts of your time, but we will likely have follow-up questions for you. And then by April 30th, we'll be able to notify you whether we can support the work. And in that, we will send you a contract, information on how to invoice, and some other additional onboarding information. So if you haven't seen already, our expression of interest form is available on our website. Today's recording will be uploaded to our website. And you can reach out to me. You can reach out to me at my email address, michael@seekcommonground.org, and I will respond to you promptly. And also, you'll be able to access my Calendly through my response to you. Now I'll turn to submitted Q&A questions. So I'm going to read the questions as we're recording this for people to be able to access. The first question I see is the partnership school for this project have to be in the Akron School District or the Cleveland School District? It can be either school district. However, this is an excellent question in that the work should be specific to a school district. So for example, if you have activities in Akron and in Cleveland, your project should specify one of them. If you have, and to dig a little bit deeper into this, if you have activities in Akron and Cleveland, you could express interest for each of those locations. You should consider that a separate expression of interest. So if you are interested in doing work in Cleveland and Akron, that would be 2. And the next question is regarding should the applicant have a fiscal agent letter from the partnership school district? No, the fiscal agent letter should be, the fiscal agent is the nonprofit organization which is sponsoring the work. And when talking about Cleveland, does that include suburbs of Cleveland? It does not. And it includes the operating area that is effectively the Cleveland school districts, also East Cleveland, that school district. So again, Painesville and Mayfield, we would not consider that within our operating area. The next question, if I have a program that would be a great fit for a school district, but a partnership isn't established yet, should we consider applying? Yes, I think is my initial response is you should do that. I think for some clarity, an explicit partnership, even an implicit partnership with the school district, you should not consider that a requirement. What you should have as a North Star is this going to improve the lives of young people within those school district areas? Not that it's an affiliated program with a school district. So the next question is along those lines, so I'll just note it to reiterate it. Must the work occur directly with the school district, or can it be community-based youth-serving organizations that work with district students? So thank you for that submission, because that's a good articulation of the distinction, and one that we would like to emphasize is that Community-based youth serving organizations that work with district students are eminently eligible and frankly, the ideal participants. What recommendations, next question, sorry. What recommendations would you make for an organization whose core timeframe for programming is April and May? Would this program be a good fit? If you are conducting activity in April and May and do not have project activities that would be from June through September, this wouldn't be a good fit. Will funds be able to cover overhead costs is the next question. So we are, this goes back to the issue of why we structure our funding as a contract. We do not ask for you to provide budget information. We are interested in the activity that you conduct, how you determine how to conduct that activity, and how to allocate resources to execute that activity. That's your domain. That's not our domain. What we are looking for is a really interesting and intriguing project idea, your demonstration of the ability to carry it out, what you think the effects of that project will be, because what we're really looking for is all the information that you'll create from this project and provide that to us so that we can share it. The next question is, does this have to be for a new project? Or if it's something we've been working on for a while, could we continue to expand our efforts within that existing project? That is an excellent question. This is an issue that we've contended with in the Action Accelerator model for a number of iterations. Here's a way to approach this. Here's a way to think about it, is that you may have an existing program, an ongoing activity in a body of work. For our purposes, and you should consider the Action Accelerator opportunity as a discrete activity, as a discrete project. So within that line of work, if you can tease out a specific set of activities within the time frame from June through September, that would be a good project idea. What is also probably important to consider in this case is, how do you articulate? How do you demonstrate? How do you show? What do you say about this project that you can tease out the learning from it for that period of time? So if it's sort of in the cycle of a larger body of work, how do you say, at the conclusion of this particular project, we'll know this, we'll have achieved this, these will be our outcomes. The next question is, if you're financing $15,000 for each collaborating organization, what is the total number of organizations allowed? Excuse me. Let me clarify that. It's $15,000 per project. So if there's a number of different organizations that are collaborating on a unique project, we can provide $15,000 for the project. And there should be one sponsoring organization, one fiscal agent, if you will, for that project. The next question is, the project you're looking for targeting the youth, parents, teachers, faculty, or a mix? So I hate to do this to you. Yes. Your idea, your project idea could serve youth. It could be intergenerational. It really is what is something that you think is going to be most effective in the long run of benefiting the youth of your community. But that could be targeting families, that could be targeting teachers and faculty. And the final question I think we can cover today, in this session is, can we submit an expression of interest under an organizational email instead of personal Gmail account? I think any email, whether it be an organizational email or a personal email is fine. So thank you for joining today's session. As I mentioned, please reach out to us. We hope that this has spurred your interest. If you have additional questions, I'm available to respond to them. And you also can check our FAQ, as we will be updating that as we receive more information from people. Thank you.